So, everyone, as I told you, we'd be sitting down with my good friend Doug here. Doug and I have been friends since probably 1979. And when I told him about doing this podcast, Doug was like, okay, I'll be your guinea pig. So, here we are. Um, Doug, is there anything you want to say about yourself?
Just happy to be here.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to get into Doug's top first five albums. And then we're going to get into one of those albums that really changed Doug's course of music. As you can see in the background, Doug likes music and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Actually, no, it's Boston, but
I know, but there's also River Stadium on the other side, so
I'll give you that.
I see things, Doug. So let's open things up, Doug. What was the first record you remember buying, and how old were you?
The first album I got was the soundtrack from Footloose, and I was like 10.
This one here.
Yes, that'd be the one.
Which, you know what? Like, I looked this up last night, and you know, it was a big album for when the movie was big, so the soundtrack was going to be big, right?
Oh, sure.
And it was probably the first time you ever heard Sammy Hagar as well, right?
Oh, exactly. Exactly. I bought it for Kenny Loggins and stayed for Sammy Hagar.
So how old do you figure you were when you bought that, Doug?
When I got that one, I was probably about 9 or 10.
9 or 10.
It
So
was early.
probably grade three, grade four.
No, that one, grade 4 or 5.
Okay,
Um,
okay, yeah.
Yeah, because that's the thing. A lot of my selections, it's not like a case like, well, as yourself, you had older siblings to kind of influence you that were significantly older. In my case, I had an older brother that is only a couple of years, so we're kind of figuring a lot of this together, right?
True,
So,
and that
yeah,
changes everything. Like I remember my sister buying this album actually, and it was being played in the
okay,
house. So this and there was another movie, Flashdance, I think it was that she
okay,
played.
yeah.
Yeah. So second album,
Second album that I ever got was the wrestling album.
the wrestling album. Hey,
Yeah,
I remember that being advertised on. You used to watch what was WWF at the time, right? And
yep,
there's
oh,
always a
absolutely,
commercial for this, and you had Land of a Thousand Dances on it.
exactly. Real American. That's what it was
Real
all
American,
about.
right? And Tutti Frutti.
Yep.
Again, having older siblings, I never really got into this stuff.
Yep.
This Weird Al Yankovic never really. It wasn't until later, and I've picked up the Dukes of Hazzard album in the last 5 years, but I still haven't found a good copy of this to pick up for my collection.
Okay. Well, it's almost more nostalgia reasons.
Kinda, yeah. I don't have an older sister telling me not to buy something because she didn't like it. So, okay. So number three would be,
Would be Brothers in Arms, Dire Straits. So this was my first serious cred.
yeah,
Uh,
absolutely, and it's such big videos for it too, right? Like this was right
yeah,
when MTV or Much Music for us Canadians was
yeah.
taking
Well, that
hold.
was the thing too, right? Just because the fact of with my brother and I being so close in age, we kind of similar. We're discovering this together. So MTV era, money for nothing. You see it all over the place. So
Again,
it's
Doug,
gonna dry in.
I'm sad to admit this is not an album in my collection, but it's an album I wish I would have bought. There are so
Okay.
many great songs on this album that just get lost, right? Mark Knopfler is, look him up. He's a great guitar player.
Oh, sure. Well, yeah.
you know,
Guitar
okay,
legend, sure.
yeah, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction.
Hmm.
So now we move on from Dire Straits, and how old are you around this time?
At this point, this is still probably about 11 years old.
So this is where like you're you're kind of finding your connection to music,
Well,
really.
yeah, you're getting into middle school, like grade 6, and yeah, you're kind of really finding your ground.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So from here we move into
Bill Collins, no jacket required.
again. This is an artist I own nothing of, and I regret it because
And
as
well,
we were
this this is another one that was all off video. As far as the video for "Don't Lose My Number," and you saw it everywhere. I even remember seeing it on like Buffalo 29 between shows at one point.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember Genesis videos,
Yep.
but I don't really remember. And I remember Miami Vice and Phil Collins. Let's be honest.
Yep.
But I don't necessarily remember the Phil Collins videos.
Okay.
Mainly because at first we didn't have much music in our house, right? Because it was a
Mm-hmm.
pay-per-view channel at the time,
Yep.
if you remember. But again, a lot of heavy hits. You know, you can't really go wrong with Phil Collins. You know, was an amazing drummer. So, and he could write a good song. So, okay.
Even
So
though after 35 plus years, no one still knows what the hell a Susu Studio is.
true, true. And then you have the urban legend of the song. Oh, I can't. I've gone for a blank. I saw what you did. There's if you go
Okay.
online, if you go look it up, there's a whole
Oh, In the Air Tonight.
in the air tonight. That's right.
Yes.
I don't know if that's on this album. This so one album.
No, that's one of his earlier albums, but yeah, I know exactly what you're talking
Okay.
about.
My bad. Okay, so number 5, Doug.
Speaking of videos, Eat 'em and Smile.
Okay, this was the man who like really knew how to do a video. I don't know what to say. Like, it's David Lee Roth. So this is where your music is really being defined, Doug.
It's starting to, yeah. Like again, this was a lot of it was bought off of the videos, and I won't lie, I was kind of front heavy to the songs that were on like Much Music and all that.
Yeah.
As far as, but yeah, like this is kind of started to kind of dabble with some of the hard rock, even if I guess, well, Money for Nothing and Dire Straits kind of started that way. But yeah, this is kind of where it started to kind of pique more interest.
Now, were you aware of Van Halen by this point?
Yes, I was aware of Jump. Again, it was all video,
Okay.
and yeah,
So, okay, on the side, Van Halen or David Lee Roth? Or,
absolutely. Helen.
I mean, okay, Hagar, Roth, what's it going to be?
I'm a Hagar guy. As
Beautiful.
far as, yeah, David Lee Roth, he started it, but Sammy knows how to throw a party.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm the same way, Doug, and we know
Yeah.
how many Van Halen shows we've seen together. So, you know. So, next album we're going to talk about is, you know, one of those pivotal albums for you. So, you would like to tell us what that is?
My pivotal album was Bon Jovi's Slippery When Wet. With that one, I was 12 years old, and that was actually the first time I ever went to Cheapies in downtown Hamilton. So another icon experience.
And it was the experience of the record store, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because the other ones were like Music World and places like that, whereas Cheapies, you actually got the full variety. You got the things that were kind of off the beaten path. You got some things that weren't exactly mainstream.
Right. Again, I'm a big Cheapies fan. I remember it fondly. It's part of the reason for the podcast, to be honest with you, is because I missed the people you met in the record store that would turn you on to other music, Doug.
Oh, sure.
And that's the connection I'm hoping that we're going to draw with this. So Bon Jovi, Slippery When Wet. Now, when you told me about this album, Doug, I went back and I listened to it. So what was it at the time for you when hearing this? Was it the videos? Was it the look?
At that time, yeah, it was, well, the videos, because they were all like the first couple ones full on live, kind of in your face. As far as big choruses, but it had like that heavier sound. And well, at the time you're 12, right? So you're starting to kind of get a bit more rebellious. Even too, like they were at that point playing the hell out of it. I remember CKOC Top 8 at 8.
Nice. It makes, you know, Doug, in my head, I don't want to embarrass you, but there was a time where you almost pulled off the Bon Jovi look. You had the long blonde hair, the tassel of the jacket, the cowboy boots. There we go. Look, I don't want to embarrass you. I was too ugly to pull off any of that.
Well, if you're going to refer to it, I'll give you the help. But actually, yeah, because it was funny. You told me to listen to that album.
And
and
has
I
it
do.
changed for you?
I discovered something.
Okay.
It's like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Okay, explain.
You listen to the first half to two-thirds of it, it's a hard rock album. Listen to the last couple songs, it's a full-on, I guess, nod to Springsteen. You
So,
listen to a lot of that stuff, even the guitar lines. If you picture Clarence Clemens playing saxophone as the guitar lines, and they're full
wow.
on Springsteen songs.
So, Doug, when you mentioned this album to me, I was like, great. I'm like, I swear to God, I heard enough of this in the 90s. Um, it's an album I own. I didn't buy. In fact, you recorded it on a Maxell tape for me back in grade 8, I think.
Okay.
And I probably every time I listen to Bon Jovi, that's how I listen to it.
Mm.
Up until I bought this album at the flea market there on Barton Street with
Okay.
my buddy Mike, and I've listened to it and I know the songs, but I had never sat down and listened to it again like I did when we were kids. So this week I played the album from start to finish 3 times, and I'm going to tell you again, I find myself playing records on the weekends, and I end up playing the same 5 albums, Doug, if that makes sense.
Mm.
And I'm always looking for something new to throw into the mix, and this is going in the mix, man. Once you take out the nostalgia of the hair metal, I guess, whatever you'd like to call it, it's a solid. Like the drums are just all over the place on it. It's got again, the hits are worn on it. Let's be honest, Doug.
Yeah.
You know, like I think everybody can go without listening to "Living on a Prayer" again.
Yep.
Maybe I'm wrong, but there's a
Well, even
lot of.
you
Pardon?
talk about the drums, and as far as the producer was Bruce Fairburn, who was the engineer, Bob
Right,
Rock.
recorded in Vancouver, Canada, if I'm correct.
Oh, Canada.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I forgot a lot about it, and I'm gonna go back. I didn't catch the Springsteen reference, Doug, like when I listened to it.
Mm.
But I'm gonna go back and listen to it again, like in my head as I'm thinking of some of the tracks that were on side 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're onto something.
Yeah, listen to something Wild in the Streets.
Right. That.
Yeah.
But I thought that with Raise Your Hands on the first
Okay.
side, that
Okay.
could have been a Bruce Springsteen type. Maybe not. Hey.
If Springsteen's feeling heavy that day, absolutely.
Again, Doug, I don't work for Rolling Stone magazine. I'm not putting up 100 top 100 albums that you have to like, or you have to own, or you don't know music.
Mm.
I'm just trying to connect with other people, and maybe they turn me on to something. So, you know, but I will say that was a great, great album, and thanks for the references. You know.
Hey.
So, last little bit, what all have you been buying, Doug? And maybe there's something else in that pile. I know I bought the new Greta Van Fleet this weekend, so.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't picked up Greta Van Fleet yet. As far as from, I guess we'll go from the one I bought the furthest long ago. Was Safety Dumps, Jason Hook. This album is from about 13, 14 years ago.
Absolutely.
It's kind of his transition album from when he went from doing pop to going into Five Finger.
It was one of the albums he told me to purchase for my son when Matt was learning guitar, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an experimental album. It's not really overly commercial or anything like that, but it's just, and it's quick, but it's just Jason just doing his thing.
Yeah.
Speaking of what side of the fence I am on for Van Halen, after that, it was the Essential Red album.
Nice.
As far as that one's just, it's a Sammy's Grace hits from Montrose all the way up to recently. And Sammy's just one of those guys you can throw on just whenever.
It's barbecue music. I don't want to say.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
Just having a good time and you want something in the background, you can never go wrong with the Sammy Hagar album.
Exactly. And then after that, it was Hell Yeah, the most recent one.
Nice.
So this one, without Vinnie Paul. This is after Vinnie passing. So just as far as hell yeah, it's as far as I prefer some of their older stuff, but it's still a good album.
Yeah.
And it's heavy. It's got like its hooks and stuff like that. It's just it is what it is, right?
Yeah. Right. How? So compare it to. Do you miss Vinny on the album? Like,
I think yes. Well, Vinny's Vinny. Vinny just has his definite style. I think as far as the album, like it's definitely missing that element. So
yeah.
I'm sure that he had his fair share in arrangement and writing too, which kind of
Well, let's be
brought it
honest.
up.
Vinnie Paul was a big loss to music on a whole.
Yes.
Um, it was like the last connection to Pantera, really.
Mm.
I know we still have Rex and we still have Phil, but
Phyllis.
you know,
It's the
Pantera.
Abbott brother.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
The yes. After that, the next album that I got was Taylor Momsen, well, the Pretty Reckless, and Death by Rock
Nice,
and Roll. So
nice.
it's a good album. It came out this year. As far as goes, some pretty anthemic kind of songs. There's guest spots on it. Tom Morello plays on it. It's a good album.
Okay.
So and the most recent one was Life of Agony Scars.
Scars.
Yeah, yeah, the
Nice.
sound of scars. Yeah, Life of Agony is one of those bands that I've been into for a while. They are a New York-based band. I guess if anything, they're kind of Anthrax light in a way. Like they aren't as quick, but they are as heavy. They're a band that kind of went through transition too because they were building up, and then their lead singer Keith decided that he wasn't happy being how he was, so now he's Mina, and they kind of went off the radar for a bit, and now they're back again. So,
Nice.
but still is heavy.
So out of those five albums, Doug, if you were to push one for either one of our three listeners or myself to go out and get, which one would it be?
Life of Agony, Sound of Scars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
figure as far as Sammy gets enough push on his own, Taylor Momsen and Pretty Reckless are getting enough airplay of their own. But yeah, as far as Life of Agony, they're a solid band that just hasn't really been overplayed. You might catch them on satellite radio here or there, but you aren't going to hear it on local rock radio.
Okay.
But it's
Well,
solid,
I'll be
solid.
going in the local Sunrise, and I'll be ordering it on vinyl because that's the only way I like my music. Everybody, you do what you have to do.
Yep, no,
Okay,
absolutely.
Doug, we're going to thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, and uh, hopefully you can stick around, and maybe we'll ask you for a couple more questions after this. Okay.
Absolutely. It'd be my
Okay.
pleasure.